Sean, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, glad you're here. So, you are a drummer for a Metallica cover band called Hardwired. The first
Yes.
thing I wanted to ask you was why did you even decide to pick up drumsticks?
So picking up drumsticks was actually kind of an accident. So back in high school, a buddy of mine was already like playing bass and stuff. And I pretty much got a little spoiled throughout Christmas time. And then when you're 13 or 14, you're not really thinking about saving the money. So I looked at my buddy and I'm like, what do I do with this? Pretty much looked at me. He was like, why don't you just go buy drums? Because I see you being a drum player. So obviously I ended up, you talk to your parents or whatever because it's drums, so it's somewhat loud in the house. And my dad was like, "Okay, like I'm gonna take you. We'll go to the store or whatever, and we'll buy some drums." And then it just pretty much started from there. I was already into music, I guess, figuring out what would be the better instrument for me to play or what I would enjoy the most. And it's 20 years later, here we are, or just over 20 years, we're playing drums. So it's pretty much how it
Right.
kind of all started.
I think I've been playing drums for like 6 years at this point around. And I mean, the reason I got into it was because my dad played. And when I was younger, my dad would hop on the kit and play in the basement once in a while. And he would always ask me, Brad, you want to try drums? You want to try drums? And I'm like, maybe next year, maybe blah, blah, blah. And I would always put it off. And then one time he's like, oh, our neighbor takes lessons from this guy. You want to try? And I was in middle school. I was like, why not? Right? Why not try something new? And best decision I ever made. I'm super passionate about it. It's so fun. Everyone's like, oh, it's an outlet for your anger. And yeah, definitely at times. But I think just the musical aspect of it and being able to listen to a song that professionals play and then you being able to pick up sticks and emulate and play what they're playing is like it's just another feeling.
Yeah, it really is, man. It's fun. You get kind of like the best of all the worlds, if you will, right? You get to play songs that you absolutely love from whoever artist that has written songs. You get a hell of a workout if you play long enough throughout a
Yeah.
day. Some people, it's an outlet of frustration because let's face it, you can pound on drums as like hard as you want, and or just to release and spawn some creativity. It's a joy of music in every aspect.
People like to label it as the flow state. So it's like people label it as being one with the music, for example. And like sometimes I can hop on the drums and I'm not really feeling it that day. Sometimes it'll get me into a better mood, sometimes it won't. But then there's those days where you put on the headphones, you sit on the kit, the music's playing, you start playing, and you're separate from this reality. You're no longer here. You kind of forget everything else exists and you're just in the music.
Being able to disconnect, have a way to escape whatever is going on in your mind or whatever's going on around you that is either chaotic or stressful or whatever it may be, is definitely a great way to have a release. I find myself feeling the most free when doing that, whether it's just by myself practicing or even on stage, being able to just play in front of people and maybe giving them a release. It's a joy of music, and it's pretty much why I'm so passionate about it too.
Everyone's living their lives so fast and everyone always has something to do and our minds are always just going and going and going, and it's like being able to have an outlet like that or just some sort of creative hobby, just anything of that magnitude, to be able to release from the rest of your life and just be in the moment doing that for even if it's just 15 minutes a day. Maybe you have time for an hour. I mean, everyone's life is different, but I think it's super important for everyone to have some sort of outlet like that because I mean, from our experience, playing drums, for example, that's what it is for us, and it's like that it changes the game, it changes your life.
Yeah, it does. It really does, man. I've never really given myself a moment to kind of stop, pause, or think about what else I would be doing if I wasn't doing drums. And it's crazy because had you asked me like 20 years ago, when I first started playing, if I ever thought I would really get to a point of doing this, I would have told you that it's somewhat like, I mean, even to just a few years ago, I was like, there's no way. Like, there's no way I can see myself literally, traveling and doing all these things, but you just go with it. And when it's passion, it becomes second nature for you. We get lost in like what you were just saying, right? About doing fast pace and everyone's, I got to do this and I got to do that and then I got to do this and I got to do that. There's no, I wonder if people really take time to really, 15 minutes, like you said, or 20 minutes, half an hour, or whatever it may be, to really go like, okay, like I'm gonna do this because I need to do this for me today. Get a pause, get a moment of serenity, just to be able to zone out of all the chaos.
A process that I was experiencing for a few minutes when I was sitting on my porch. The idea of just forgetting about everything and everyone in your life. And when you first hear that, you're probably like, well, why would you want to forget about everyone? And it's like just for like a minute or 5 minutes of just being still experiencing the moment you're in now and just forgetting about your life, all your responsibilities, everything you have to do, just for 5 minutes, and just be like, all right, I'm here, I'm alive right now. And that's where like the gratitude comes in my opinion. And then it's just it gets you to that state of serenity, like you said.
Yeah, definitely.
The Hardwired band, which is a Metallica cover band, how did that even start in the first place?
I'd say about 3-4 years ago, Chris, Mr. Headfield, our version of Headfield, we got on the phone pretty much, and he kind of threw the idea out there. What would you think about doing a tribute thing or cover band thing? Chris and I have known each other for like 10 years. He has an original project, music project, in which I ended up joining years ago. That was an insanely fun time of doing music. And then throughout the process, led us to start doing this about 4 years ago, which has essentially taken over our life, if you will. It's turned out to be quite the beast within itself. He essentially called me up and was like, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts? How do you think about it? And I'm like, I mean, Metallica is Metallica. You can't like, there's not much else or like much more of a way to really say anything about it, right? It's Metallica is Metallica. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. This sounds like fun. The process to it for me was a little different because I knew Metallica, their hits, if you will, the Black Album, but I didn't know like everything about Metallica. You're gonna pay tribute to a band, you want to do it to the best of your ability. So the more we spoke about it almost daily for 6 months until we got into a room, and he had chosen like 3 songs for us to pretty much start to see if we could do it, if it felt right, if he could do the vocals. The guitar playing in itself like is for sure challenging. Hetfield and Kirk, I feel like sometimes can be extremely underrated as guitar players. People look at them like it's easy or it's not as challenging, and then the next thing you know, people try to do it and they're like, well, okay, this is a whole different ball game. But yeah, and when we started off doing it that way, it was just us two, working on, I think we had 3 songs. We started with I think we did Hardwired, Fuel, Sad But True, I think.
Okay.
I think maybe Master of Puppets was in there as well. But so we started off with like 4 songs. We were leaving, and the person at the counter was like, who was just singing, like looking at either Chris or myself. And Chris goes, well, it's me. And the girl literally looked at him and went, like, scary that you sound that much like him. Walked out of the rehearsal space after finishing our practice and kind of looked at each other and went, okay, now what? Let's see where this goes. I think we're like 140 or 150 shows in or something like that in the last like 3 years. If we're not playing shows, we're practicing or watching their stuff, their live footage, their studio footage, whatever we find. For Christ's sake, that the new record is insane.
Yeah.
So good. And since the day it was released and they started with Lux,
then
which is
Screaming
actually quite
Suicide.
fun. I think it was Screaming Suicide, but the whole record is just, front to back, I listen to it all the time. We travel, when we're traveling to do shows, it's playing in the car. I mean, Metallica is always playing in the car, always was playing in the car, but that record especially if I'm driving. Insane to think that the whole band, I think other than Rob, is like they're in their 60s now, and that record is just wow. How much more creativity can you have, man? It's insane. It's insane. It's so good. Anyway,
Like, yeah, I've heard Metallica say like, we're gonna keep playing live until it gets to a point where like we physically cannot. And I
yeah.
think for guys like that, just the creativity in their minds is like that's not going away with age. Like, physical capabilities, being able to do it, and they are still able to do it.
And Hetfield sounds like a monster. He sounds so good, so
It's
good.
insane.
It's inspiring to see, honestly. It's inspiring.
I think everyone's waiting to hear In a Murata live. I think that's what everyone's waiting for.
11-minute song. The 11. You'd think after like a 7, 8, or 9-minute song that like it's enough, but no, they went and did 11
Gotta
minutes.
keep going.
It's insane, man. It's very inspiring to see, man. You put out 11 songs like that, and it's just the record is seamless, man.
I think the album came out. I was just listening to it in my room, and then like for the weeks after, just every time I'm in the car, I'm listening to the album over and over again, trying to figure out like the technicalities of each song and like, all right, which one of these would be easier to play on the drums? Like I learned this one first. And it's weird because it's sometimes the first time you hear a song, I love this song, right? And sometimes you listen to it the first time, and you're like, okay, this is pretty good. But then you listen to it back again with like a different, I guess, ear on a different day, and you're like, holy shit, like this is insane. Like for example, I think when I first heard like Too Far Gone, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, it's an okay song. And then when I started listening to it more, I'm like, okay, no, I really like this.
I remember specifically Too Far Gone. I mean, the whole record was good. Darkness Had a Sun, for example, when they put it out, took me time to digest it because of certain things like the beginning of the way that they have it build up. Not to say that it wasn't or that it isn't a good song, but it took me a second to really take it in. Versus, let's say, like Lux or Screaming Suicide or 72 Seasons, I was like, oh, this is good. Too Far Gone was like another one of my favorites on the record. There was In a Murata, when I saw that 11-minute song, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm still kind of mind boggled about the fact that they're able to put out a record that good. I feel like a lot of the stuff that is done on the record, especially drumming wise, like for Lars, was ins and outs, or like some of the punches or the rolls and stuff. They're very precise. It's very crisp. I feel like he really thought about it, of like how or when he'll do certain things for certain songs. You always try to do as best you can to serve the song. Record, or you serve the collective, is necessarily just about you and having your 30 seconds of fame. I mean, this is a band that's already been there and done it all, and is still doing it.
The crispness of it, I guess that's the right term to use.
It's official. Crispness. It's a thing. This is how we're referring to it.
Certain intricacies of like the songs, guitar parts, and what I noticed more with the drum parts, obviously, because I'm a drummer. And so when I was like sitting down to learn the songs, it's like I thought I was getting the hang of it, and then Lars does like a certain fill or a certain breakdown, and I stop playing, and I'm in the flow, and I stop playing. I'm just like, wait, what is going on right now? I'm like, okay, and then I just try to grasp it, but it's really funny.
Lars's touch of doing that, it's been a thing. There's always some type of this, that, or the other that's added in there, and you're like, okay, got to figure this out now.
Yeah.
Versus some of them that are a little more straightforward songs. Like a song like Lux is like insanely straightforward. Once you learn it or break it down part by part, the flow is I feel a little more natural. 72 Seasons, for example, breakdowns at the end on the like outro of the song. It's there, but you're not like expecting it, and then it completely changes the dynamic of the song.
That's something that I especially noticed on the new album was the outros, and I'm just like I'm playing, and then I'm just like, all right, what? I didn't expect this to happen. I mean, like people have always criticized Lars for like the way he drums and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, he's in like one of the most famous metal bands, he's not that good. I think his drumming is super unique to other metal bands. Like the drumming doesn't sound like that, and I think about how his uniqueness adds to the Metallica sound. Like, what would Metallica sound like drum wise and just the song as a whole if Lars's drumming wasn't the way it was?
What makes bands unique, or bands, obviously musicianship is one thing, but people make a band what it is. And everyone can have their own opinion and do and feel and say whatever they feel like. But, you know, Metallica wouldn't be Metallica if it wasn't for Lars. And it also wouldn't be Metallica if it wasn't for James, or if it wasn't for Kirk, or if it wasn't for Rob or Cliff or Jason, right? So this is everyone's input, or everyone's style, everyone's idea or ideas is what makes it what it is. And Lars is a genius in his own way, in the same way that James is, the same way that Kirk is. And I think he's underrated. I think there's a lot of musicians that are underrated. If you're 60 years old or doing this stuff and you've been doing it for 40 years and your body's still allowing you to do it, then God bless. I admire his work ethic and his drumming, his styles, his unorthodox fills sometimes, certain outros, or the way that they're punched in or punched out. And the timing of it is to be able to hear something like that and then translate it onto drums in an insanely fast song or an insanely slow song, or whichever. It's talent, it's detail, it's work, it's passion, determination. It took me a minute to deep dive into doing, or to listening to a lot of these songs, especially the older stuff. I knew the hits, but I didn't know all of them. They're at 12 records now or something like that. So much music, so much evolution, so many different styles and songs. And I started to really deep dive into their catalog. When we started doing this, I was like, this guy's a machine. He's an absolute machine.
Yeah.
Whether physically playing the songs, or you find a lot of like the studio work that's done or that they've done in their career, hearing ways to piece together songs, like a riff here and a riff there, and then the next thing you know, you have Master of Puppets or One or Sandman or Dyer's Eve or Battery. The whole band is underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And as individuals,
the age that they're at, and them still going on tour, and the energy that is on stage from them. I mean, like you just look at Lars, for example. Of course, the entire band is filled with energy. You look at Lars, you look at his facial expressions, you see how much fun he's having up there, and everyone's up there. They've created incredible music, and they're still performing it. I got to go see them for both of their nights at a stadium on this tour, and then I saw them down in Hollywood last year for their once-in-a-lifetime concert where they only played the first 2 albums. That was insane. And it's like, you were there too?
The Hard Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there, yeah.
That was the most insane night of my life.
That was a very good time. They invited us actually to play the night before them.
I think I heard about that. I think I saw something on social media where it was that they like on Metallica's page, they advertised you guys. Oh, you played at the Hard Rock in like a separate section, right?
Yes.
Was that what it was? Yeah.
First 2 records, man. Lars still brings it, man. It's great.
And hearing so many of those songs that like they haven't played in so long, and then them coming on stage and just absolutely nailing it.
Yeah.
Said around at least 150 shows by now with the Hardwired band. Were there any struggles in traveling and certain mental blocks that you've had while you were on tour, or no?
I can't say that I struggled. I don't feel like any of us struggled. For the most part, a lot of our travel is like weekend. We'll be gone for 4 or 5 days and then we're home. So it's not necessarily like very difficult. We went on the road last November, I believe it was, for about 3 weeks, which was like at that time the longest we had been away from home. But that was fun. You know, we all really, really enjoy doing this. Not only are we bandmates, but we're friends, right? We hang out outside of just doing the music thing. We'll go out, or we'll have some drinks, or go watch another band, whatever normal people do, essentially. Beginning of June until mid-July, we were on the road. So that was the major chunk, or the longest we had ever been on the road, which for 6 weeks, when you're not necessarily used to it. I think everyone kind of some way, shape or form finds themselves in like an up or down momentum, because your 6 weeks is somewhat longer of a time period to be away from home or to your own things or routine and whatever. But if I speak for myself, the 2 hours we get to play or the 2.5 hour show that we do, it's a reminder as to why we're on the road or why we travel or why we do all these things. I enjoy seeing different parts of the country because I haven't really seen it. So when we get to different areas, it's new stuff. I enjoy sometimes if there's time to either like walk around, very little. I'll still go check out what it's like or meeting people. We're very cognizant of the fact that we're not Metallica and the fact that people thoroughly, and I mean, from what we've received as feedback, like thoroughly enjoy a lot of what we do. And that's also a very humbling feeling that you're able to deliver in some type of an experience, hopefully as close to the real experience as possible. I love playing music. I love playing drums. So I'm already winning. But the important part for me is the experience that they get. That's what matters to me. That's what I care about the most. So for me, it's a very rewarding feeling to be able to do that. There's nothing bad about it. We're family, the four of us. So the struggle here or there is like us maybe like bickering back and forth at each other for like 2 seconds, and then we're like, oh, what the fuck, like
Yeah.
great part about it as well. You get three other dudes, you get to travel and take over, if you will, in your own way. I got back after, or we got back, I should say, after being gone for 6 weeks, and I was kind of chomping at the bit to like get back on the road. I got so used to living out of a suitcase in a different city or different state every other day or whatever it was that I was like, okay, like let's go, like let's leave again, let's do this
Yeah.
again. It's very humbling. It's very rewarding.
Like when I saw you guys back in, I think November, no, not November, I think October. You guys are all super talented and skilled, and you guys kill it. And like I see Chris, who is Hetfield. You guys like the same guitars as like James does, and so I can notice that, and other people in the crowd I'm sure notice that too. And just the skill level and the also the enjoyment that obviously you guys are having out there too. I think the energy of a band is really everything. Like it could be one of the most famous bands in the world, but if you go and see them and they just have no energy and they don't really look like they're enjoying themselves, even if you like the music, you're not going to enjoy it as much. But if
Right.
you're bringing the energy as a musician on stage, that is contagious to the crowd. And even if you are having a bad day, go there and you experience the music with the musicians who's playing on stage with, which in this case is you guys. It's like there's no way you can't feel good and have a good time. And then on another level, like you just said, it's just a great thing that you guys can bring your skill level, your enjoyment for the music, and then also share it with other people and have other people have a great time alongside and at the same time as you.
The rewarding part about it, man. For the 1 hour or the 2 hour or the whatever time slot that is allotted to us to do that, for people to have that fun, that release, that freedom, if you will. I know for myself personally, whatever time it is that I'm on stage, I'm free. Like I'm not bound by anything. I don't have to worry about it. I get to play music and I'm free. To be able to give that or for people to feel that that's like the ultimate reward or the most like humbling part about it.
I think the feeling that you just personally have when you're on stage, like I haven't played any like super big gigs, for example, but the venues and places that I have played at, being able to just play something you're passionate about in front of other people and have them enjoy it along with you. I'm sure you know it to a whole other degree than I do, but it's just the feeling when you're up there to just be in the moment, like you were just saying, doing what you love, and it's just pure enjoyment and and creative expression.
Yeah, it's just music, and it's you take it in and you absorb it, or you put out that energy in the same way, regardless of the venues.
You might not know anybody in the crowd, but when you're playing the music and they're enjoying it as well, you
I
bonded in this weird way where it's like you guys know nothing about each other, but you're here in this moment experiencing this music together. And so for that, it's like everybody's one.
That's what music is, man. There's a similar radiation of energy, if you will, that takes it all in.
On the drumming level,
Yeah,
were there along your journey of 20 plus years, what have been some of the struggles and payoffs for learning new skills? Basic example, 2 years ago or 5 years ago, you hear a song or you know the song and you're like, I really wish I could play this, but I'm just not at the skill level yet. And then you being able to develop the skills, and like a year later, it's like, oh, I can now play this. What's your experience with like ups and downs of learning and struggles?
The experience at the end of the day is always a good one, even though I might not see it to be a good one sometimes. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's insanely annoying. Sometimes it's irritating. I'm kind of like I'm a bit of a headstrong person. So when I'm like minded that I like, okay, I'm doing this and I start doing it, if I can't do it or it's not getting done, it ends up irritating or eating away at me. And so having to learn certain songs that were added to our set list, for example, and not knowing those songs, I had to learn the song before I could learn the song, like to play the song. That's my way of going about it. I'll listen to a song to actually learn the lyrics and like be able to like sing to it, or certain guitar riffs or bass patterns or drum patterns or whatever it may be, so I can have a reference to then I know there's like, okay, cool. There's a change here, there's punches here, or it's a roll here, or whatever it may be. It's made me a better drummer because I've had to learn different things without realizing it. You know, certain songs that are just like backbeat, it's I mean, the hardest thing is to consistently play a backbeat. Anyone can just hammer away quick. And if you don't have discipline in that area, if you will, to like sit back and let certain parts have like the air that it deserves, it changes the whole dynamic of a song. And I'd say it's all been positive because I've gotten to learn consistency. I've gotten to learn how to be more mindful of tempo. I've gotten to be more mindful of having more crisp hits versus doing the fast stuff all the time. It's been a great learning experience across the board. It also made me realize just how good of a drummer that Lars is. I keep referring to Hardwired, but like, because it's been my life for the last like 3 years, literally. It's all I've been doing or thinking of or learning or dissecting. And it's become like a healthy obsession to continuously evolve as a musician. There's so much variety going on in it that you without realizing it, you can learn a bunch of stuff.
Know something is going to be a little bit difficult and maybe a little bit frustrating, but just being able to walk into it consciously, even though you know it's difficult, and then learn it. And then in this case, it's like you're here, you're walking into like a cave with all the drum patterns and all this shit being flown at you. You learn it, and then you walk out of the cave and you're like a new person and like have these new acquired skills. It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle at times in my journey with drumming to sit down and do the rudiments and do the patterns and this and that. And I just want to play music, right? I just want to sit down and play the song. And it's something I'm still working on, really hone down on the skills and my finger strength and all that. From your experience, especially, it's all time well spent because it's gonna allow you to learn so much more, become a better drummer, musician, and ultimately a better person too. Because being able to construct and take on the discipline in that aspect of your life, you can also then translate it to other areas like maybe your relationships, et cetera, et cetera. It builds you a more resilient character as a human being.
Yeah, definitely. The little things like you mentioned of like sitting down and like doing rudiments or stuff like that. In all honesty, it's probably something that I should do more. Like you said, you can apply these things in every aspect of life. The motivation or the creativity day that comes around that you feel like you can't learn anything more, you're going to be like plateaued. I learn from everybody every day, man, in any way, shape, or form. I don't know, be like a new way to like tie my shoes, and I'll be like, all right, cool. Something as small as that still matters.
I think it really is all about the little things. It's the death of your soul when you stop learning. Learning is like the fruit of life. Everyone knows those people who think they know it all. I think I used to be that person. But the problem with that is if you believe you know it all, you obviously don't. And you miss out on the more personal and the opportunity to help other people. When you close your mind and you stop being open minded, you don't learn anymore and you don't grow. And I think the key to life is growing. It's like when you see growth in any area of your life, you get excited about that because you're progressing for yourself. And then when you progress for yourself, you can then in turn help other people because you're making progress yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. 100%.
Sean, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, man. It's been a pleasure.
Where can people check out all your guys' stuff on social media, potential tour dates, etc.?
You can go to the website, which would be hardwiredtribute.com. You can find us on Facebook as well, which would be Hardwired Metallica Tribute Band. I would say that would be probably the best areas. We announce stuff on Instagram as well, but normally through the website and or Facebook would be the easier ways to see the events and the times and all that stuff. And you can follow all of us there. We're tagged here or there in certain things, so we're all available to. We always post and share stuff, so you can also get the details there.
Awesome. I'll link a bunch of that stuff in the description too, so people can check it out. Thanks
Sure,
for tuning
yeah.
in, guys.
Send them into you as well. Cool, man. Thanks,
We'll catch
guys.
you guys in the next one. See ya.